No worries at all. So I am on what's page 4 of the PDF. At the top says MMP's client service commitment. So just our audit strategy is risk-based and considers the limitations and opportunities that the town encounters each day. And it allows our recommendations to be implemented with greater ease. So what we use is typically discussions with management to determine some audit risk, as well as our history with the town as well. Skipping down to the next page, the key changes and developments, so specific to the town. Although the town continues to grow and evolve, we are not aware of any specific events or circumstances during the year that will have a significant effect on our audit. Outside of the impact of COVID-19, I mean, we've all lived with COVID now for almost 2 years. There isn't really a major impact in terms of our audit procedures. Typically, it just might limit our kind of movement around the town office that we used to have, but there's no issues there, and we do some auditing remote as well, so that we can try to limit some contact and make sure that everyone's comfortable with our team and the town as well. Some new reporting developments. So for those that have seen one of these audit service plans in the past, these 3 reporting developments are the same as last year. Due to COVID, they were bumped 1 year in terms of the implementation date. So we have PS 3400 for revenue, which establishes a new standard on how to account for and report revenue by distinguishing between revenue transactions that include performance obligations and transactions that do not. This standard is unlikely to result in any major changes to the town's financial statements, so no real issues to worry about there. PS 3280 for asset retirement obligations. An asset retirement obligation represents a legal obligation associated with the retirement of an asset, which results in a liability. The retirement costs increase the cost of the asset and are expense similar to amortization of that asset.
We're losing you.
Only when the asset is no longer in productive use. This standard is likely to increase liabilities related to the town assets based on the back there. So it's basically just saying that, you know, there is a potential, a likely potential that this is going to affect the town's liabilities due to old buildings that potentially have asbestos or, you know, other contaminants there. And we've been in discussion with management already on the plans to remediate and some of the done to determine what that liability might be moving forward. So that is going to come into effect during fiscal 2023. And depending on the approach taken and how it's recognized, what transition method is used, it could affect 2022's balances as well to restate. And then we have PS 3450 for financial instruments. It establishes requirements for the recognition, measurement, derecognition, presentation, and disclosure of financial assets and liabilities, including derivatives. We don't expect that this will have a major impact on the town's operations either, so no major issues there. New assurance development includes CAS 315, so that's new for periods beginning on or after December 2020, so for fiscal 22 that we're working in now. It just incorporates changes to establish more robust requirements and guidelines to assist us as auditors in forming appropriate risk assessment. And it responds to basically the size and the nature of the entity. It primarily revolves around the design and implementation of internal controls. So essentially, this is just going to increase our audit procedures in these areas, which will be discussed with management throughout the planning stage of the audit. No real other work in terms of management procedures or anything like that. On to the next page there for audit materiality on page 6 of the PDF. So audit materiality is an important audit concept. It is used to assess the significance of misstatements or omissions that are identified during the audit. It is used to determine the level of audit testing that is carried out. For the December 31st audit, we proposed $300,000 as the overall reality for planning purposes. This is relatively consistent with the prior year as well, and previous years before that. It maintains relatively consistent year over year. Risk assessment on the next page. So one of the significant risk areas that we've identified is related to revenue and restricted contribution. in the fact that contributions received are subject to restrictions imposed by the contributor and can only be recognized when expenditures related to the restricted use have occurred. We're going to review all grants and applications for the use of those grants to determine if the expenses incurred relating to the grants are appropriate and that revenue has been recognized in accordance with those expenses via the matching principle. Some high risk areas are the tangible capital assets. So there could be tangible capital assets incorrectly capitalized or contributed assets not recorded, such as a new town development, or tangible capital assets that may be expensed. There is also estimates involved in determining the carrying value of the tangible capital assets, primarily related to their useful life and amortization rate. We're going to vouch significant additions and disposals, test appropriate expense accounts to ensure classification between expense and capital is correct, and review current year additions to ensure that the transactions are in compliance with TCA requirements. We're also going to discuss impairment of tangible capital assets with management and corroborate those discussions with the infrastructure manager. Another area is salaries and wages, just to ensure that staff are being paid appropriately based on their agreed upon wage rates and salary rates. So we're going to trace a sample of transactions from the financial records to ensure that employees are being paid appropriately and that deductions are properly withheld and remitted as well. On to the next page for the timing of the audit. So today we have our presentation of the audit service plan. We're going to be doing year-end fieldwork procedures from February 14th to February 18th. The discussion of year-end financial statements in a draft version will be held on March 25th, 2022. And the proposed timeline for the presentation of the audit findings and the issuance of the independent auditor's report is at the April 19th, 2022 council meeting. That timeline, all those timelines are essentially directly similar to last year. I think the report date last year was April 20th, 2021. So within the kind of the same day as council meetings fall on Tuesdays. The audit team, so we have Benji and myself here today. We also have a concurring partner, Jeff Fleureau. He's from our Edmonton office. And then we have two staff members from our Leduc office as well. So Benji, Jeff, and myself have been involved with the town for a number of years now and bring our experience with us in that regard. Fees and assumptions. So the audit fee is quoted based on our quote letter dated May 11th, 2020, $30,250, as well as the audit of the local authority's pension plan for $1,550, totals $31,800. And then you can see a billing schedule there that's agreed upon in our engagement letter. On to the next page for Appendix A. So this is just some more detailed information about those reporting and assurance developments that I discussed earlier. If you need some bedtime reading tonight to put you to sleep, this will probably handle it. So I'm just going to skip right through down to Appendix B on page 13, and it describes our audit plan. So our overall audit strategy is risk-based and process, and we focus on the risks that have a potential impact on the financial accounting systems and subsequent financial reporting. Some of the audit procedures that we're going to prepare are to obtain an understanding of the entity and its environment, including its controls, in order to identify and assess the risk of the financial statements if they may contain material misstatements due to fraud or misstatement. We're going to examine on a test basis and supporting the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements. We're going to assess the significant estimates used by management, among some of those other bullet points there. On to the next page on the overall reliance. So the December 31st, 2021 audit, we're planning to place a low reliance on the town's controls. This level of reliance is consistent with the prior year and will involve mainly substantive tests of detail rather than actual tests of controls. And just, although we will provide council with any information about significant deficiencies in internal controls, we do want to draw attention to the fact that we may not be aware of all significant deficiencies as we are not preparing an internal controls audit. This is a financial statement audit, and that there is some inherent limitations in the auditing process. So as an auditor, we cannot obtain absolute assurance that material misstatements in the financial statements will be detected for audit procedures. And, primarily it's due to the nature of fraud, could potentially include attempts at concealment through clue forgery. And the audit is designed and executed in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards, and it may not detect material fraud. Therefore, as the auditor, we cannot guarantee that fraud, misstatements, and non-compliance with laws and regulations, if present, will be detected when conducting audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. So, just to bring attention that, obviously if we do come across something that, throws up a red flag for us, that, there could potentially be fraud or alleged fraud happening, we would bring that to the attention of the appropriate individuals. But that the audit that we're conducting is not a forensic audit, so it's not specifically designed to detect all fraudulent transactions if present. Based on our history with the town, we don't have any suspicions or anything like that. But as Benji mentioned earlier, that would be something that we can discuss in camera if council has any issues that they would like to go through. Last page here is the auditor independence. So as an essential aspect of our services to town is that we do provide an independent viewpoint. And as auditors, we do subscribe to the highest standards and are required to discuss our independence with council on an annual basis. As of today, we do confirm that we are independent of the town, and at the completion of our audit, we will confirm our independence in writing as well as part of our final package. And then the rest of the pages there is actually just our engagement letter that's provided for information for council if anybody wants to review. It's previously been signed by the town manager, the prior town manager. So if anybody would like to read through that, they can as well. Any questions or anything, you can put them towards Benji or myself, or as well as Diane has seen many times in the past as well. That's all for our audit service plan. I kind of ripped through it pretty quick. It's pretty standard for the most part, but if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, I'll open it up to council if anybody has anything they'd like clarified. We did have a little bit of sound trouble there, Tanner, but we got the majority of what you were telling us as we went through the notes. But any councillors with anything they'd like to ask Tanner or Benji? Diane, anything from your side as to anything here that's different or abnormal from what we normally experience?
No, Your Worship, everything is consistent with previous years, and we're looking forward to working with MNP again and Tani and Benji. So yeah, get it all wrapped up.
Okay. Councillor Butcher, anything from your side?
No, other than once again, we've got an excellent audited report from Tanner and Benji, and I'd like to thank Diane and the staff for all the work they've done.
Yeah, they work well with the auditors in the past, so that's good. We'll hopefully see that continued cooperation. So as far as going in camera, gentlemen, I don't think we're able to do that at this point in time, just because of our setup. Miranda, I think that's probably an accurate statement. So what I'm going to suggest is that if any of the councillors have a concern, that they could contact you direct by email, as long as they were to allow the other councillors privilege to that email, that would be sufficient. Does that meet with council's approval?
Yes.
Yeah. Works for me.
Yep.
Okay. So if there's anything that has surfaced tonight that is of concern by the councillors, they will contact you direct, and we'll move forward from there, if that works, gentlemen.
Great. Yep, that works for us. No problem there.
All right. Thank you for your time and your information. Auditing is always such a funny word, because some people take it as a, oh my God, no, I'm being audited, and other people are saying this is a really good thing that I am being audited. So
we don't work for the tax department, so it's okay.
All right. I just lost Connie there for a minute, but I'm just calling her back. So we will get her back on the line here. So thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll move forward from that.
Hello, thanks for calling. I can't come to the phone.
Oh. So I guess she didn't answer me. So thank you again, gentlemen. We'll continue with our agenda, and I know Diane will be working with you to go from there. So
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
thank you.
Great, thanks. Have a good rest of your night.
Bye.
Good. Okay, so we'll move on to the item number 6, the adoption of the minutes of December 31st.
I'll adopt minutes.
Have we got a mover for those minutes?
I
I
will.
said I would.
Oh, Joanne, thank you.
Yep.
Any
Aye.
discussion?
I have a deletion on that, though. There's a problem with them.
Okay,
Joe's vote was not recorded on the request for recorded vote.
oh. Okay,
He's not even there.
Well, it's hard when he makes the next motion.
Correct.
I'm pretty sure I remember what he voted, but it's not there.
okay. All right, Connie is back with us, and there was an amendment on the minutes for the recorded vote, which is, where are we here?
9.22
Yeah.
9.22.
on the minutes.
All right.
Page 4.
Yeah, we missed them all together there, so
If I may ask, Miranda, you're catching this for change?
Yes, I am.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
So the amendment is, Joe, your vote was
Yes.
yes, okay. So that would make it 5-2 overall. And acceptance of the minutes as amended. All in favor?
Yes,
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. Any opposition? None heard? Carried. All right. We'll move forward now through to item new business, item 9.1, credit card policy. Madam Paismani, you've got something for us on credit cards?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. So this policy hasn't been updated since there's been some changes in different staffing positions. So they've been, it's like some positions that don't exist anymore have been removed and some have been added. Also, the overarching limit of the credit card for all of the card holders was 50,000, and that was problematic sometimes that we'd hit that limit, not very often. So I've increased it to 75. When you do the math on all the individual credit cards, it doesn't come to 75 because it's pretty unlikely everyone will max out their cards. Also, just recommending some increases in my time here. The limit's always been 5,000 for the majority of the cards, and we run into problems. For example, AUMA, booking rooms. If we have having to split it between different credit cards. So we're just recommending for the general manager's limits to be increased from 5 to 10,000. And that's pretty much all the changes in there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay. Looking to council.
I'll make a motion. I move that credit card policy 316.11 be accepted as presented.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Spicer. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
Good. Yes.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, that's carried. Okay. Item 10 on the agenda, 10.1, council reports. So we'll start down, Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. The only thing I have, and the reason I didn't submit a report was the only thing I've done since our last meeting in December is I had a Water Commission bylaw and policy subcommittee meeting on the 10th. And obviously, we were just going over some of our policies and procedures or bylaws to bring back to the board next or later this month. So that's been everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Cosby?
Nothing further to add at this time, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Spicer, anything more for yours?
Not a whole lot. I did want to add, though, we did have an outbreak at the Diamond Spring of COVID, but they're now over there. It's been downgraded to just a watch status, but there has been quite a few other outbreaks in other facilities that Homeland is running. Some of them not pretty minor, but one of them has, like in St. Albert, they have up to 40 residents that have been diagnosed with COVID. So just something to be aware of.
Okay. Going the other direction, Councillor Butcher, anything to report?
I have no report other than the Roseridge meeting was canceled last week. There was, our manager felt there was not enough on the agenda to meet, so I guess next month we'll have a heavy agenda.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Melnick?
No, all I had was just what was in my report, just the community service board meeting, and we were just discussing stuff for Family Day, and that's about it.
Okay. Councillor Williams?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. And my report is as it is presented, nothing further on that.
Your worship, I'd like to make a motion to accept reports as presented.
Okay, Councillor Butcher's made a motion to accept the reports as presented. Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposition? Carried. Okay. Bylaw Services Review Update.
You, Mr. Mayor. This is just an information report in regards to the Bylaw Services Review Update. So currently there has been some challenging issues with bylaw services, and this is just to look at what administration can do to work towards educating the public, engaging the public. We're looking at increasing and enhancing service levels. So attached, you have a first draft of public service or public engagement education document with the information that we'd like to provide to the public as a first step. Some of the next steps included would be consideration for a public statement. We'd like to look at scheduling and planning the review of applicable bylaws to ensure that they're community focused and still relevant. Continue reviewing current bylaw like strategies and how we apply them within the community to make sure they're timely, consistent, fair, and community focused as well.
If I may add a couple of small things, Miranda, thank you. I just want
Absolutely.
to say, I really appreciate the work you did on this report. Through you, Mr. Mayor, one of the big things that we recognize in discussing your strategic plan is, again, the efforts related to connected communities. And so often bylaw is misunderstood, and sometimes it can become very challenging because it's a tough job, and it's something that a lot of people really never like to have happen when we have to enforce bylaws. But the reality is it's often misunderstood because it creates so much value for the community on the whole. And we feel with, some of the current circumstances and issues that we've dealt with lately, it's time for us to reach out to our community and really, again, engage them so that we can provide them with an understanding and hear also what they have to say in relationship to this. And maybe there's some things we can do to improve, but certainly this is a really a big effort to improve our relationship with our public. But also, again, just really kind of connect ourselves in a relationship from an administrative perspective through council to the public. And again, just an education effort to, again, really reach that goal that we have from a connected community perspective. And again, like I said, I really thank Miranda for the work that she put into this. You will see a designed report. We're trying to, get people to read, obviously, what we send out. And again, make that a little bit of an extra effort to maybe educate our public in relationship to why we do what we do. And then again, open up our ears in relationship to some input. So again, thank you, Miranda. And I guess we'd open up to any questions you may have. Miranda, can you maybe just show the public report or the design document that you created, please?
Sure. It's included. Are you okay with it being online in the public?
Yes. Yep. You betcha. Oh, sorry, Miranda. Didn't mean to throw you off.
I just have it in a different document. It's fine.
Not a problem. I think because, again, through Mr. Mayor, one of the things, because this is an open and public meeting, again, this is in a sense a start of that engagement with the community, as some people might be watching. We're trying to make a real effort to really connect and educate. So, and I just want to show you some of the work that Miranda did to take on that effort.
Maybe just while Miranda's putting that together, anybody from council have any comments or questions right from the get-go based on the information that we received in our package? Councillor Olson, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. With regards to what Miranda's trying to pull up for us here, to me, it looks great. It does put forward sort of the information with regards to what the bylaw services does and what they're there for. So,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
Perfect. Looks great, Miranda. Thank you.
yeah.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Tina. Or Councilor Cosby, sorry.
I really like the fact that it does summarize, and Miranda, you did an excellent job of the actual bylaws and the policies and what relationships that our particular individual is put under to do his particular job within this community, which I know is a very tasking position in itself.
Yes.
Any other councillors? Councillor Butcher?
No, I think it's a very well drafted document.
Okay.
And like Councillor Cosby said, is thanks for putting it together. It's well done.
Okay. And
If I may,
Go
just
for it.
one extra thing to mention is this is actually Miranda's first shot at a design document. She did this herself. So we actually procured some software, and we're trying to create that in-house ability to do more of this, because again, wanting to connect to our communities, this is just kind of the beginning of maybe some of the engagement opportunities that we're going to take on over the next year. So again, all this was done completely in-house.
Councillor Spicer, go ahead.
I just think the move that moving bylaw over to the Pembina 2 is a positive move, and it's going to be a positive environment for Kelly as well. So.
Okay. One of the things that Mr. Duhamel mentioned was that bylaw can be challenging. That isn't the word that I would use. Having a history on that side of the fence, there's a lot of different words that could come to mind. But the fact that the municipality is going to be part of the solution, I think, is a great step. And you mentioned that, Mr. Duhamel, about looking at community feedback and community support for it.
Yeah.
So that's a good step in my mind. So thank you for doing this, Miranda, and Mr. Duhamel for the direction and guidance again. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anything else on bylaw? Let's move along then to 10.2.1, snow and ice removal.
Through Mr. Mayor, if you haven't noticed, we've had a bit of a challenge over the last couple of days in relationship to ice and snow. And one of the things that really hit me with the challenges that we're facing, and I talked to Nawaz about it today, and we're going to continue that discussion tomorrow, is this isn't actually the first time this year we've had kind of a crisis when it comes to snow and ice and some of the challenges. And we've realized, you know, we've been kind of caught a few times because we have a normal standard level of service, one that allows us to overcome, you know, great challenge. But we're starting to face challenges that we've never really seen before at this level and this often. Again, municipalities all across Alberta are facing this challenge right now. And we respect and appreciate the challenges that our residents go through. And we've had a lot of calls, a lot of frustration over the last couple of days. And, you know, we empathize with that. And we've decided to really work at upping our game and really looking at some solutions over the next couple of days. But I can't stress enough that it is a challenge and we cannot control the weather, though we can do our best to react to it. One of the things that we've also talked about is looking at increasing our training within, because again, because of things like COVID, illness, sickness, they can really handcuff us. They've handcuffed us already in Pembina Place, and we're finding COVID is handcuffing us a little bit now with our snow and ice clearing. We did have an operator who tested positive, which has caused us some concern and issue. One of the things that's important to note as we look at snow clearing is this is very big and complicated machinery that is utilized to clear snow. So we can't just throw anybody on these machines, which is also, again, a significant challenge because finding people that are qualified, getting them trained and ready takes time. And so it's not something that we can knee-jerk in terms of a reaction. And, you know, obviously the usual response often is, well, look, it's what happened. Let's go and get some contractors. Well, every municipality in the province is now calling contractors. So one of the things that we've discussed is we have to work very hard over the next few days, which Nawaz is going to speak to in a few moments, to get us back up to speed. But we've also started the discussion today in relationship to increasing our internal capacity, additional training, possibly more people trained on large machinery. That's a big commitment on our part. But at the same time, it'll allow us to do things like double shifts if we have to, you know, more time on the grader, more time clearing snow, up our skill sets, and get ourselves better positioned for these challenges in the future. Because if we've learned anything this year, is that as challenges come, challenges go, and they come back again. And I think, you know, we have to be prepared for that from a weather perspective. One of the things I think it's really important also to note, when I talked to Nawaz this week, and he has had a very difficult week, but he's really, you know, put in a great effort with his team to overcome those challenges, is he hasn't seen this in, I think he said 5 years. And it's one of those things that when we look at this, often, you know, we'll get criticized and say, well, why weren't you prepared for this? But what we're typically doing from a service level perspective is our consistent normal, which is a pretty good level of service. We're prepared for a certain level of chaos when it comes to snow clearing. But what we've seen over the last couple of days, and what we actually saw a few weeks ago, and what I'm hearing is what we may see again next week, is somewhat challenging because we're not used to sheer ice storms. And so I just want to put things into perspective for you a little bit before we get into the meat of the report. But I think the key thing is to understand is that we empathize with our public. We're doing our best. We've been hit by a couple of operational issues due to illness, but we are looking at upping our game for the future. But we also are looking at overcoming the challenges over the next couple of days. I'm going to maybe turn this over to Nawaz. If you don't mind, Nawaz, you're going to speak to your plan for the next couple of days to provide council with that update.
Thank you, Tim, and your worship. As Tim mentioned, that we We had some issue with a staffing level in the operation for the snow clearing, but we already signed up for some of the streets for tomorrow morning. So early morning tomorrow, we are planning to tackle the downtown area first, and then the senior lodge and the priority to continue. So as per our policy, if you all know that we have the policy said that we have the 3 priorities. So priority 1 are the main routes and emergency routes. The priority 2 is the downtown, the senior lodge, and the priority 3 is the residential street. So we are starting again. And as you know that in up to the December, when weather changes and every time was a cold weather, we were pretty good in shape. But when weather changes to the pillar side, everything, especially in the residential area and the turning points, make a big mess. And if you are driving a smaller car, it was not easy to come out those turning points. And we consider that we were getting so many calls. Yesterday, I was in the office and there were some pretty angry residents. So, and I explained the process and our resources and the limited resources we have, and we are doing our best we can. And you probably notice more than I do that how our streets are, especially the emergency routes, the priority 2. And so starting tomorrow, our all operation will start. And our plan is that we will spend some overtime to work on the weekend so that the residential streets and everything get cleared by the end of this week. That's our plan is. And we will be spending maybe a little extra hours so that we get everything done within 5 days. Typically our process is a 6 days target, but we will try hard on this one because I know some residents are pretty upset. So we will finish by the end of this week. That's our plan is. And if there is any questions or any comments, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay.
If I may, just one thing I'd like to, before we move on, is we're going to do our best to clear, but we have to temper expectations because we're talking about bare ice in some cases. We're talking about extreme cold. There's only a certain level we can get it to, with the equipment we have and the resources we have. So we're going to get things cleared, but there's still going to be issues out there that we're going to have to deal with, and residents are going to have to be careful driving. We will send out some public engagement information in relationship to that. But again, I do want to temper expectations because it's going to be challenging over the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Council, go ahead. Councillor Olson, your hand's up there.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Tim. What is it like? I mean, I could drive dump truck. I'm legally allowed to drive. How hard would it be for me to go drive dump truck for the boys and allow that operator to be in a piece of equipment? I mean, it wouldn't be at any additional cost to the town for sure. But I mean, if I can drive the dump truck and free up an operator in a situation like we just had in the last few days,
yeah,
I don't know what the legal ramifications, insurance, so on and so forth.
Nawaz, do you want to speak to this? I guess the one thing I just want to state, because again, I had this discussion with Nawaz, and I've dealt with this when I was in the town of Bruderheim. The dump truck's not the issue. The Bobcats aren't the issue. The grader is the issue. The grader is a very large and complicated piece of machinery with huge liability associated with accidents, safety. It's not easy. It takes significant training, and we have 2 operators that are grader ready. But when you deal with COVID, we have found, and we've learned just this week, how quickly you can have your backup and your main person actually go down. And so it's a learning experience from us. So Rob, I totally agree with you, but we have to get that training down throughout the rest of the crew so that if we're hit with 2 or 3 COVID issues, we can move people into the grader if we have opportunities for the truck, because you're bang on. The truck isn't an issue, and even some of the small equipment is an issue. It's the grader that causes us complication.
And I mean, I agree. I mean, I can operate, a few pieces of that equipment, but I mean, if I can free up somebody from driving dump truck that could be utilized on another piece of equipment because of sickness or vacation or whatever, like I'm more than willing to,
It's a great point. We thank you for that. We'll take into consideration. But Nawaz and I are talking about a bit of a plan for backup. I've asked Diane to come up with a financial plan if we have to have something come forward to council for an amendment in relationship to maybe overtime, whatever. That's not something I'm going to worry you about just yet, because I don't think we'll be there, but we can manage this. But we'll let you know, Rob, if we need you, I guess, is the key thing. We'll have a lot more detail about this tomorrow. Nawaz, do you have any thoughts?
No, you covered pretty much good. So thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else on council? No. Councillor Butcher?
Actually, other than giving Nawaz and his crew kind of a very great big thank you for what they're putting up with. This is, like Tim said, it's unforeseen.
I have just an observation from my front door, which I think might be of some assistance. I don't know, but we have the sandbox on the north end of Pembina Place for the free sand and salt. And it's difficult for the guys to be able to get over there to fill it. And I'm wondering, given our current situation, just what we have now, would it be possible to look at maybe putting just a load of sanded salt or salted sand, maybe in the parking area across from former Councillor Dorish's residence, where we have that little town parking lot there, so people could get to it easily, but also so our crews aren't spending some time having to shovel the sand out of our equipment and into the box. So it would be a quicker transfer to get that done, and they could get on to other duties. Just an observation. I've seen people at the sandbox with wheelbarrows, taking wheelbarrow full of sand, and I've seen them with trucks with 10 and 12 5-gallon pails in the back. And I think some of our commercial contractors are taking advantage of the free salt and or salted sand for their benefits as well, for their customers. So if there's any little thing that we can do or think of to help ease the pressure that our crews are facing, the rain and the temperature swings aren't going away. They're gonna cause us grief. And for those of us that drove downtown on Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning, there wasn't a problem. There was a little bit of breakage at some of the intersections because of braking, acceleration, and turning. Those three things bust up the intersection bad. But Friday afternoon, midday Friday, the temperature swings had started, and all of a sudden that crust started to break away, and that started to create problems. And then all of a sudden we get more snow, we get wind, so we get drifting, and we got breaking up snow, and then freezing rain. Like I said earlier, I've used about 8 gallons of the sand on my sidewalks. And what happened overnight at my place is that crusted wind, that heavy angular wind and the snow that came along, has now made it really difficult to shovel my sidewalk, because the sand and the salt mix and everything is all glumped onto the sidewalk, frozen in place, and now you're trying to drag a shovel across it. So it only helps to a point, but you're right, Councillor Butcher. The crew has done a good job with what they had to work with. So, anything else from council on this issue? No, hearing none. Okay. That should take us through the agenda. I believe there was a 10.3, but I think that was covered in the snow and ice clearing response. So we're into the acceptance of the two reports, 10.2 and 10.2.1. Councillor Olson?
I'll make that motion, Your Worship, that we accept the bylaw and the snow and ice committee or snow and ice reports as information.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
Right.
Any
Yes.
opposition? Hearing none, carried. Okay. Correspondence. So we have two letters with respect to our health services, streamlining of foreign physicians and immigrant nurses. A blanket congratulations to anybody who got elected in the province. And the adolescent vaccine provisions that Tofield felt were deficient in rural areas. Anybody have any comments with regards to any of the correspondence? No, I just wanted to let you know, I had a conversation with one of our physicians here in town. And although the original letter from the city of Cold Lake referenced their situation, our doctor indicated that it's not a blanket situation, that not every health center is capable of doing the assessment and training of somebody who's coming online. One of the things that they pointed out, which I never even thought of, was the diversity of need in various communities. So you may have a community which is much more laid back, and you bring a doctor in to train there, and they're not capable of handling that big pressure push that they would be able to handle if they were in a larger center or something with more dynamic injuries and client demands and that sort of thing. So it was a good discussion with them. The one thing that he did mention that I think we should be aware of, and I would think maybe administration could get us some information as to who we should contact or concerns where we could raise it, is the use of the rural ambulances in the cities. We have apparently had a couple of incidents where we've had ambulances coming from as far away as Lamont to service our clients at our hospitals because we didn't have one of our ambulances available because they were being used, seconded into the city. There's been several incidences of lengthy delays. So just maybe administration, if you have a chance to get some information for us on that, and we can bring it back to another council meeting for a discussion with respect to our ambulance service.
Will do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Look for a motion to accept correspondence.
I'll make that motion to accept all the correspondence as information.
Thank you, Councillor Cosby. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay,
I'll make the motion to go to closed session.
okay. Councillor Spicer is going to close session. And I believe we have to cancel this meeting and then log into a different meeting. Is that correct, Miranda?
Yes.
Okay.
So I will start that shortly.
I'm sorry?
I'll start that right away once I close this one out.
So we'll adjourn to closed session at 7:35 p.m.